This is the JWN Podcast. My guest today is an amazingly talented and uniquely motivated ballet dancer. I say uniquely because her creative and independent spirit has brought her vision of dance, choreography, and costume design outside of traditional ballet venues while still respecting the art form. Crystal Wellman is a classically trained professional dancer who's been dancing for pretty much her entire life. Her persistent need to create has led to the formation of the Unbound Ballet Project Collective, which was conceived as a way to collaborate with other dancers during their off-season to explore new and daring artistic expressions custom-tailored to unique spaces where ballet is not usually performed at this level. I hope you enjoy this candid look into a truly creative mind. Here's my conversation with Crystal Wellman. So the reason why I brought you on here, I made a short list when I first came up with the idea of talking to creative people. And I was like, it would be very easy for me to talk to just musicians because that's where I came from. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I want to try to talk to people from all different creative backgrounds to get an idea of the things that we have in common, the things that are different, and everybody's different even within the same practice. So you're one of the first people that came up because I know when I first met you through, I probably met you first through community yoga, but then at Reverb is kind of when I actually would talk to you. Mm-hmm. And when I found out, oh, she's a dancer and you had your own ballet group, dance group. Mm-hmm. And what you explained to me about it, I was like, oh shit. Crystal's a punk rocker. Crystal's in a punk rock band. The way you approach it, it's very DIY. You're doing everything. You know what I'm saying? It's such a
punk rock band.
Well, I listen. I grew up kind of doing the punk rock thing, and that's
Where are you
from? New York, Long Island, and so I grew up. That was my scene. As far as a teenager and into my 20s, that's what I did. Mm-hmm. So when I saw, I was like, oh my God, it's the same kind of mindset. It's the same, go get them, do it yourself, screw the system, I'm going to do this. But you also obviously come from unlike me, you come from a very trained, I don't know, do people in dance come up without having training?
No.
There's no faking it to you
well, I mean, not ballet. You can't. Yeah. You can't really fake that.
It seems like there's rules and
yeah, I mean, there's probably some dance forms where you can, just kind of go for it, but not classical versions of dance.
Yeah, I guess
we start at a very young age, usually. Yeah. There's rare cases where people are like, oh, I started at 16, but normally I think I was 8 when I decided I wanted to dance professionally. I knew right away.
That's awesome. At 8.
You just feel it. You're like, oh yeah, this is what I should be doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you don't feel that, there's no point in even putting your time into it. It's just too much. With so little reward sometimes,
It's a weird thing because dance is one of those things I think a lot of families put their kids into, specifically girls in America. It's just let's sign them up for dance. They look so cute in their costume. They do from a very young age where it's the kids will come out on the stage and they're just, if they can make it to a mark, the crowd goes wild, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to my mom, when I was little, I guess I just was kind of performing all the time.
Yeah.
Singing, dancing, but had no idea what I was doing. Obviously, I was very small. And she came from a very different background. She played sports and, I think didn't know what to do with me. I was a lot. And
do tell.
Still a lot, probably. But she happened upon a school that had professional training. It was by luck. It wasn't that she had the eye or know how to take me there. So then I just ended up there, and it was pretty serious from the beginning. and my teachers had a professional background, and it was a professional training environment. And that's not always true for everyone. Sometimes you start at places where it's more recreational, which is cool too. Like whatever you want to, do with it. There's lots of reasons to dance, but I just ended up in a pretty serious environment. And I was pretty serious.
Yeah, well, this is going to sound weird. How do I say this without you not misinterpreting it? You come across, when I first met you, you came across as a very serious person. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I am. I think maybe.
Yeah. I was like, all right, she's going to get right down to business. There's no. But then as I got to know you a little bit more, I realized, okay, that's just, you kind of put off that thing, but you seem a lot more friendly after a few minutes of talking. Like, it's like, oh, okay. All right. She's just got to.
I feel like you're holding back what you really want to say.
Well, I'm searching for the words to say it without.
You're not the first person that's told me this, so don't worry. I'm not offended.
It's just about, I have a hard time sometimes searching for the words to say something that might be misconstrued as like offensive. Because I'm not coming from that place. I'm like, how do I dance around this and say, oh, she had kind of a wall built up, or you have a wall built up around you when you first meet somebody. And, once you get past the wall, once you get through the wall, it's like, okay, yeah, this is great. But at first it was a little intimidating. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's funny. People tell me that and I'm always like, I'm intimidating. It's probably more that I'm intimidated,
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty confident person, but yeah, I don't know. People make me nervous sometimes. Or like I'm scared to like be myself sometimes at first because it's kind of weird. I'm a little weird. And I'm kind of loud and opinionated sometimes. And people don't always like that, So, you learn to adjust to societal norms a little bit. And that's probably a little bit of that. I don't know.
Do you feel like when you're dancing, that is kind of more of a natural language for you to express yourself where you can feel more comfortable?
I think being creative is, and there are other things that I like to do that are creative. I just don't really share them with other people really. But yeah, I think being creative is where I feel the most natural, and definitely movement is like number one. But
well, one thing I've noticed from your dance, performances, as well as the classes when you're doing yoga, right? We don't even have to go into that too much
yoga.
if you don't want to, but is your music selection. So music has to play a huge part in your life because it seems very thought out. You're not like just willy-nilly picking a playlist of like, oh, here's some cool jams. It seems like you really have a connection to the songs that you're playing.
Yes. Especially if we are going to talk about yoga briefly, that definitely is something that I have an opinion on what I want it to feel like when people take my class and or their silence. It's like one or the other for me. So I don't want it to be the forefront ever because for me it is the connection with yourself, but also it's enjoyable to listen to music and, that's part of the creative part of us as humans. Yeah. So
it's such a unique thing to like. I guess there are other animals might be singing and we just don't know it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But it's like a thing that we all can relate to. Even if you're not like a big music person, it connects people. But I definitely grew up, my dad is really into music. So I grew up listening to music from a very early age. I played multiple instruments and I used to sing.
Really?
I had it I was embarrassed. You want to hear an embarrassing story?
Of course I do.
So back to like my mom who said, she didn't know what to do with me. I used to do beauty pageants. Oh my. No offense to anyone who does them, but she didn't know what to do. I was like singing and dancing and I didn't want to play. I like like normal, I was always lining up the performances and setting up my stuffed animals, and I had a whole show to do at like 3, So
awesome.
She was like, well, what do you do with something like this? Oh, beauty pageants, which I have a whole slew of now my opinions on how I feel about that. But yeah, so I had a coach, a professional singing coach and musical theater coach, and I went out there and sung and danced and did it.
You killed the talent show portion. That was the easiest part for you.
I kind of slayed the beauty pageant environment in small town North Carolina there for a minute.
What part of North Carolina were you growing up in?
I was born in Charlotte. My parents live in Gastonia, which is right outside. So yeah, that's where I'm from.
North Carolina is a place that I used to like fantasize about when I was no. Okay. This podcast is getting really weird. No, when I was a teenager, because all these bands that I loved from like the mid 90s to late 90s were coming out of of North Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's like North Carolina must have the coolest music scene ever, because look at all these bands coming out of there. And I was just like, and then when we played in a band and we would tour, we would get to like Chapel Hill. We're like, we're here. We're in Chapel Hill, which is like, okay.
Yeah, it's a cool place. I didn't know if it was in the 90s, but maybe. I don't know.
It was hip.
Okay, all right. I mean, North Carolina is like vibrant with the arts, for sure. And there is a huge market for all types of artists there. And I don't know what market is the right word, but there's a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. A lot of creatives there.
I think places that are inspiring to be, in the location, that are affordable. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all this talk about artists moving back into New York City now that like everyone's fled from this pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of exciting in one hand. Like, really? Maybe? I doubt it. I imagine once this thing blows over, if it ever blows over,
it's gonna blow over.
The money goes right back
let's
in there.
Let's manifest that.
Yes. Well, it's a scary thing to me. And another reason I wanted to talk to you about this is I freaked out for certain art forms that, I mean, how do you perform like theater and dance are two of the ones like, how? What? Because music is one thing, because we all listen to our music on our phones, like it's accessible to us despite having a limited capacity to go see it live, but you still have an outlet for it. But for dance, it's like, okay, what's been the outlet? How have you handled this whole situation?
Well, we didn't really talk about my job, but I dance for the ballet company, which I do.
We'll get there.
I do not run. I work for it.
Well, you have the.
I have my own thing. It's a summer company.
Yes.
Which we will talk about apparently.
Exactly.
But
well, we don't have to go in order, but we will get to all of this. Yes.
Okay, cool. So, in March we were rehearsing with the company that I am employed by for a show.
And what's the name of that company?
Palmetto City Ballet.
Oh.
I guess so. But we were in rehearsal, and then like the next day, when kind of everything happened, we suddenly just weren't in rehearsal. And that was obviously in March. So we lost a lot of work. I mean, we're not working right now. A lot of my friends on Broadway are especially screwed, but I do have some friends and other ballet companies that we're slowly coming back. There's a lot of outdoor things going on, kind of like what I'm doing, but they're performing in theaters in Europe. It's a very different look, and there's a lot of online stuff going on. So I would say probably, this is maybe not a totally educated assumption, but from my little place in the world, it seems like ballet is kind of moving like at a really slow turtle pace back to normal. But definitely like musical theater and all that other stuff is not. And I mean, there are other ballet companies that have completely canceled. Joffrey, and a couple other really big companies, the Met canceled everything. So they're canceling their seasons.
And then you've got theaters closing, like a place where I've seen you perform at, Wolf Street Playhouse is done.
Yep.
Which is like devastating to me, just because.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that I mean, I don't know the circumstances. I did go see their show. They performed where we're performing at Tradesman. They did a show there 2 weeks ago, or like last Friday. And, so they're still together and still doing stuff, but it's amazing to me that we couldn't somehow help them, or like,
right.
I mean, I don't know what that looks like. Like, again, it's not a super educated, like, guess on what happened, but it's just, things are just closed, and then it's done. Like,
you would think though, a place like that's one of the reasons, things like that theater, right? Mm-hmm. They're one of the reasons why Charleston is so special. It's one of the reasons people come here. When you start taking away those things, then why would anyone come here? So you would think it would be in the city's best interest to keep those things afloat.
Right. No, totally. And that's what I mean. Like, why couldn't we do that? Why can't we help them? I mean, for the arts, for, theater, but like you said, for just the general pull to come here,
right,
and or stay here and be creative. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of work to be done in the theater world here. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the funding is, from my knowledge, not the best. Like, I think there's a little bit of here, like, we want to act like we're in support of the arts. It's what I've noticed from coming from other cities. And then when it really comes down to it, I don't know if people are that interested. I think they're way more interested in eating cool food and drinking fancy cocktails and
being loud and obnoxious in the street.
Yeah, which, hey, I love to eat fancy food and drink interesting, cool wine and cocktails, just like everyone else. But, I think that's a heavy.
Usually it's attached to a night of doing something.
Well, I would like for it
culturally, uplifting.
Yeah. So huge bummer.
It's a weird situation that we find ourselves in, because of course everyone with something like a pandemic, everyone's hit. So you're going to keep the most important facets of life going first. They're going to get top priority, right? But at the same time, you're like, well, when everyone's locked down, what do you think they were doing? They were watching stuff,
art,
listening stuff, reading stuff. They were consuming art. So to pretend like art isn't something that we really need to keep going, I mean, I thought that was pretty much the proof right there. Like, who wasn't watching or listening or reading or consuming some sort of artistic
I think that people forget that that's art, kind of.
Yeah. Well, especially when it's wrapped up in Tiger King. But
right. It's a different type of art.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's like something we all put into our home. Like we attach a TV to our wall, and then we flip through the streaming apps. And, it's just so accessible that it's like we forget that those people are artists. I mean, they are. And so then when you look at something more smaller scale and local, I think the connection is like a little lost.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
But I do appreciate people like yourself looking at what's going on here and adjusting and figuring out. So I did see that you are doing a live performance at an outdoor space at a brewery.
Yeah.
Tell me all about this, because it's exciting. And let's start with your summer company.
Okay.
Because that's who's doing it, right?
Yeah. Well, no, this is different. This is no, there's no money. There's no money. I couldn't afford to pay anyone. So this is a very different situation. So, 4 years ago. So, like I said, I've danced for a couple ballet companies here. The ballet scene here has kind of went back and forth. between different companies, but now I dance for the newer ballet company here, which my friend is the director of, and we danced together before. So the season was a little bit shorter than a normal ballet season, kind of work like an athlete. We work on like a contract. And so there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me to be creative. And I had choreographed on other professional companies and kind of knew that that's kind of what I always wanted to move towards once I had to retire. So I don't know. I was actually in Europe and I just was like, screw this. I want to do something. I feel inspired and I'm holding myself back because I feel like I don't have the resources or there's no space or, I had a bunch of reasons that I had built up in my head about it. And I came back and the next day I started working on it. And so it started out as just like a little, like, I'm going to do a show in the reverb space that we talked about. Well, I was like looking at other spaces and like, well, you have this. Why don't you use this and make it something unique to this space? And I was like, and that kind of inspired me. And from that first performance, which was called Light Lines, which was just kind of me getting my friends who I dance with together, and I funded the whole thing myself, which wasn't terribly expensive, thank God, to do because people were very kind to me, and which has been the case throughout this experience altogether. People have been very kind to me and offer me their services for a pretty low and or free cost. And I think I even paid them off ticket sales, like at the end. Like I maybe paid some people up front, but basically, I would give them a little bit here and there, but they were cool with me, like working the rehearsal period and then me paying them after. And it was a quick rehearsal period because I knew I couldn't ask much. I wouldn't do that myself, so I wouldn't want to ask that of someone else, Right. And then from that kind of spun the summer company. So then the next year I fundraised and, got funds together. And then I hired people and I brought people in and housed them from other places.
From other
other companies.
Dance groups?
Yeah. And then we did our show, and then the next year we did Splato, same thing, brought people in, housed people, fundraised. And then this year I was like, all right, you've done it 3 years in a row. It's time to kind of like go a little bit bigger, so I had a little bit of, of a following at this point. And, I'm a little bit more official, kind of, I guess. Punk band official.
You're describing, by the way, a band like the same kind of thing you might do because nobody gets paid for a long time.
So then, obviously, we had 2 shows planned. One on my own and one collaborative with someone else who asked me to do kind of an audio visual kind of thing with like projection and anyways, a local musician writing a score for the show, which was super cool, which hopefully we still get to do. But so my 2-show season for the summer obviously got canceled. So now we're here to what we're doing now. So I was like, well, it's over. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do this again. Like, what does that look like? And I was in a funk. I'm sure a lot of people were in a funk for a while and like, okay, what now? What next? And a little depressed and like not feeling like being creative. And I don't know what came first there, the chicken or the egg. Like, was I sad because I wasn't being creative? You know what I mean?
Or was the anxiety keeping your creativity down?
Yeah. Who knows? I definitely know that now that I'm being creative again, I like feel like I'm flourishing again. So, nice. In a way, artists were always a little... But so I had this idea. I was like, why don't we just fucking do something? So I asked 3 of my local friends here, people that I admire. One person I actually have known, we went to college together. I've known her for a very long time and I admire them. And I think they're super interesting, creative women. And in more like a modern background, most of them, but I was like, why don't we do something together? Like, I don't have any money, but why don't we just, do you want to create? And they were like, yeah, let's create.
I'm sure they were excited that you asked.
Yeah. And they're, I was like, well, is it cool if I do it under kind of the Unbound name, which is the name of my company, Unbound Ballet Project. But I was like, why don't we call it the Unbound Collective? And let's just make something. You want to make something? And they were like, yeah, let's make something. So then we had to figure out who was going to make something with us. So then, I was really hopeful that maybe I could bring in some other like male dancers, other people that I had already originally wanted to work with. But, I already felt a little overwhelmed just like making an outdoor show and figuring out where to do it in this town already. So found some girls here. It's an all-female cast. We're all girls, which isn't normally like I love to have like a variety of sexes, but no, just like
different body types.
Yeah. And like bringing people from different places. And these people definitely are. They're modern dancers and ballet dancers. So we still have that, but we're all female, which is, I think, kind of cool now that we've started it. And we created a show together. We're almost done with it. The show's cool. Next week, so I hope we get there. No, we will.
I think I know from the last time I saw you do an Unbound production, and it was talking to one of the other dancers, and they're like, yeah, we practiced like 3 times today already before this show, and we've had 2 shows today. And I was like, after watching the performance, I'm like, you just ran an ultra marathon. The amount of physical output going on for each of the dancers is unbelievable. Like the physical, I think when I started doing yoga, and just from realizing how unflexible my body is, but then when I see how much effort it takes to do something even simple to me, and then when I see what you guys are doing as dancers, it's from a physical standpoint, it's one of the most athletic uses of your body that exists. And you're supposed to do it with a certain expression on your face. You're not like showing like grit and like, your pain, and it's not like, you're making these weird faces. You're supposed to be like whatever the mood is or whatever you're conveying. So you're also doing a bit of acting as well, a performance. I guess that's why you have to start from such a young age to keep your physical abilities going for so long. To have and I guess there's a young retirement age from professional dancing for that very reason. The question I'm trying to ask is, how do you get a group of people together with that kind of commitment? Is there a plan B when you're doing these things and so, like you get a cramp or something? Like is it all just very much conditioning and practicing? Like, it's unbelievable to me when I watch it now.
Any sport, but unlike, I mean, there's certain things that I've seen in my career where, someone got injured in the first act. I'm like talking bigger ballet companies now, but injured in the first act and their understudy had to step in. So that does happen. But in this situation, this tiny little thing that I put together, first off, it's our job. So normally there's a monetary draw to like, it's you get paid and you're there to get paid for whatever they want you to do, and you just do it.
There's no way you're getting paid enough to do what you guys do. There's no way.
There are some ballet dancers who make pretty good money. But this,
when I see what these Major League Soccer guys get paid, and if a wind blows, they're on the ground crying.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's no justice in that.
Okay, well, to be fair, not every dancer is totally cool with the grit of it, but in general, we are a little tough, I think.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I just think in this circumstance where I was like, hey, let's volunteer our time, and if there ends up being some type of payoff from it, cool. And if not, we just all have to decide to commit to this, because if we don't commit to it, it's not going to turn out the way we want. So we're still professionals at the end of the day. Like, you know, so with the quality of what I want and expect, it's still as though I'm paying everyone and somehow I'm mysteriously also getting paid. So
you're creatively getting paid.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, the wealth of being able to share what I've been doing my whole life is greater for me right now than the other half. But
what I guess I'm getting to is when you get to that level, when there's so much that's on the line, or not even on the line, but so much has been put into the product that you're putting out there. The amount of passion and like desire and just downright need to do it is unbelievable. It's an amazing commitment to a craft, to an art form that is unlike many other art forms because of the physical aspect of it. And it's one of those things, like, once you gain that appreciation for it, it changes the way you perceive it. Like when I saw your Light Lines performance, I had no idea what I was getting involved in. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I was so and I've seen dance before. I've seen it in capacities where it's kind of not the main focus, maybe like background dancers for a pop performance or on a TV show or something like that. And they're amazing, but you don't appreciate it until you see it up close and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like extremely physical. Like, this is unbelievably, like, the commitment and the passion and the love, all those things I just said. It was such a cool, intimate performance in that space, and the space is changing colors around you because of the sun setting and the way that building was designed. And that's why you called it Light Lines, because it would just look like lines of light, like just, setting on the room. And it was such a cool, like, the music and the everything, but you're right in the middle of it. You're like the dance, you could feel the wind of the dancers going by you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole thing, it was such a cool way to, and now when I watch things on TV now, I'm floored. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they do that?
Yeah. I mean, part of the problem when I was contemplating before all this happened, I was like, theaters are so expensive here. It felt daunting to me, basically, like, to kind of do it on my own. And then when I was like, you don't have to do it in a theater. Like, this could be something unique, and let's make an experiment. Let's see if it works out. So I was like, there's no wing space, I'm not even using lighting. I don't think there was a soundboard. I mean, it was pretty bare bones. We went into a room, set up some chairs, and did a show. And so everything was like an art installation, Right. And there were multiple costume changes. So the costume changes happened right in front of you. The dancers did not stop moving. I think that show was probably 40 minutes, maybe something like that. Which you don't, can't be much longer than that without an intermission. And I think an intermission would have broken. None of the Unbound shows have had intermissions for that reason, because it's more like you're going to look at a piece of art and then you're done with it. So, I didn't really think about it like that when we started. I've danced in Upclose Spaces before, but generally they were like fundraisers, or like we did, one company I danced in before, we did like a pop-up at a restaurant. I was dancing like around tables, because just like promotion for the show. And then you would when you get on stage. So I think a lot of ballet choreographers and ballet companies are a little intimidated by that, because it makes us very vulnerable. So there's like tricks of the trade, right? Like, you can kind of cover stuff with lighting, and you can cover stuff with maybe is the wrong word. You can shift the perspective of the audience with lighting and with costuming and with exiting. And I mean, there's a lot of foul words that come out of my mouth when I leave the stage a lot, because I'm in some type of pain, or I fucked up something, or my costume popped off, or God knows what could happen, you know?
Right.
So you leave stage, you fix your situation, and you come back on. Well, there was none of that in this. Like, if something goes wrong, we're all in it together. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's interesting to hear you say that that's what you notice. You notice the athleticism. I kind of forget about it because it's just the norm for us.
It's just one of the things. You know, it was just one of the things that I never noticed before.
Yeah.
And I want, and I only because it was so like apparent. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't.
The sweat was like literally falling on you, which is very un-COVID. We won't be doing that next weekend. Don't worry.
But it was. I gained a whole different appreciation because I know my wife is a fan of dance for you know, for the technical reasons of she just loves ballet. She loves all of the things that I don't know about, you know, for all of the reasons that you would know about, all of the things because she danced when she was a kid. And so she was always been a fan of it. And so she likes like the, I don't know, the rules, the history and all that kind of stuff where I'm just like, I'm completely like, oh my gosh, they just jumped over that thing and that dude caught that person with like his pinky. Like what the, you know, I'm looking at it from a completely stupid standpoint. But I'm appreciating it, putting it all together. And now when I watch, and like because of that performance, I'm telling you, I'm giving you a lot of credit here because you deserve it. But because of that performance, when I see dance, even on TV, sorry, but when I see something on TV, now I'm like looking at it like how much work that person put into that thing that lasts a couple of seconds going through the screen, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And then you've got to think about, so what I've noticed since we were all kind of off work for a while, and doing class in our houses or like, you know, coming back into the studio finally and kind of doing stuff on your own. But there was no learning going on really. Like, yeah, I was teaching a lot, but first off, I wasn't choreographing, which is totally different than just teaching a ballet class or anything. And then learning choreography is a whole different skill set. And so I feel like we all, like as a group, kind of had to like really shake off the cobwebs because it's tough. And like the amount of brain power it uses to learn, like that alone would exhaust me just thinking about it. And I think having the time off really heightened my awareness of that.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of thought about dancing in the show just because I really want to perform too. Like I haven't been able to.
Well, you're not dancing at all in this?
I'm not dancing. It's just a lot. It's a lot. I mean, first off, there's 4 choreographers and like, wow, it's awesome and like super fun to work with them. We kind of bounce ideas. And again, we're different styles too, which is even more interesting. That alone is a challenge in the most wonderful way. It's not challenge in a bad way, but it's like I have to think about them and take care of each other. Right. And also then in return, you have their support, which is super cool. To kind of not be alone. Like, did I make the right decision here? And someone be like, yeah, I love it. Or like, no, we can maybe work on this. You know, it's been an interesting process that I've never done before. And that on top of all the back end stuff that you have to do to like, even though there's no money involved really in this.
Someone's got to organize everything.
I got to organize it. It took me a really long time. You know, it's under my company's name. So at the end of the day, like I'm in charge, which also still makes me uncomfortable. The girls, some of them like to joke that I'm the head bitch in charge, you know, like they make jokes. I'm like, no, I'm just the old organizer. I'm just the I'm the older organizer dancer at this point. Like, but yeah, I mean, I kind of have to make it all happen. Like, you know, so then there's costumes and then there's like, I got to worry about, we're doing this outside. What's the surface look like? You know, the surface of the floor. What are people going to come? How are they going to sit? Like, finally I found a space. I mean, literally I got a lot of no's. Really? A lot of things didn't really work out. Yeah. Man. Well, I think it's a weird time. I was like, I'm going to bring this whole show to you. And then I also like didn't have a product to show them. Yeah, they could have went to my website and my social media and seen some past videos, but this was kind of a different thing. I'm like, I made this kind of modern ballet hybrid show where we're just going to do it outside. What you think? You want this? You know? So, I mean, it wasn't like totally their fault. I kind of was like punk rocking it. You know, like, hey, don't you want me to do this? Like, you know, so like, whatever. It worked out how it should, because honestly, we're doing it Tradesman Brewing.
Yeah.
And the minute I sat down with Sarah Gale, the person who's basically bring us in, and there's other really cool people there, just another person I've been working with, she was like, hell yeah. Yeah, we want you here.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And I like, I started crying because I just had like, got a lot of no's, and like I was like, everyone is depending on you. Like, we've been working on this. I mean, we could have just went to a parking lot and done it and had people sit in their car. Like, it wasn't like we weren't going to do it. It was just like, I really want this to be something where people can enjoy it. So what better than a brewery? That's a thing where it brings people together, you know, sitting, drinking beer. It's family outside. Friendly. Right. It's outside. It's a huge space. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see it from the highway. Like, I don't know. It felt very like right in the moment. Anyway, so why did I start talking about this?
No, this is great, because
I was talking about my brain power of remembering choreography. That's what I don't think I have it right now. Like, I don't think that my brain is quite ready for all of that. So just the back end stuff and creating my part of the show, I think, was about all that my
well, you know what? I don't think you're alone in that, because if you've noticed, a lot of other creative people, musicians specifically, I'll talk about, there's been a ton of people reworking old material. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, here's an acoustic version of my song, or here's an alternative mix, or
interesting.
that kind of thing. And I think it's part of the. It's not just that you're rusty because you haven't been doing it. I think for some people, it might also be that anxiety that's just putting up a roadblock.
Yeah. I mean, I've like definitely been dealing with some anxiety issues, so that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. And so I know I
didn't really think about that. I just thought maybe I was out of shape mentally.
No, I really do. But I do think once you start doing it again, that you'll break down that roadblock, because then you'll start to feel more.
Oh, I'm like thirsty now. I like want to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm like already like, let's create something else. Or like, I want to do the show again. Like, I'm hoping that someone is like, yeah, please come do it at my outdoor space. Like,
well, there's more than just Charleston too.
Yeah.
Savannah's not too far away.
Yeah. But then we got you got
a crew of people. Yeah.
We got a crew of people. We got to get the money to get there. I mean, maybe someone will want to bring us in and pay. I don't know. Or maybe we are taking donations, you know, if people feel inclined, pay us back for.
Did you set up a web presence for this, or is there a Venmo or like
no, on my website, Unbound Ballet, or you can just type in Crystal Wellman. There's a donation button at the bottom, which will help us continue to do this, you know.
Yeah.
And or pay us back for some of what we've done for the show, you know.
It's one of the things that I talked to years ago, was how the dance community, if it weren't for people donating, basically, I guess there's another word for it, maybe, I don't know, the people who kind of like give to the arts type of thing. There's a specific
why word. Am I losing my words?
Because I put it out there that it's something complicated to remember. Benefactors.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
So that without those types of people, like, dance wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And then this is where I first started thinking that, like, oh, here Crystal Wellman's a punk rocker. Because you would do your own fundraisers. You would put on these parties. Like, you had one for the last project where you had a party, you had a house party, and you had all of the dancers do a couple of pieces and have fun, and just people could buy beer and had art things going on. You had people sketching, you had artists sketching things and selling the art as fundraisers. It was such a great, awesome, independent, punk as fuck thing. Like it was so much cool. It was so cool. Like to do that. Is that something that exists and I just don't know about it? Or is that more of a you being creative with trying to figure out how to make this work?
Well, okay. So when I decided to kind of fundraise like upfront 3 years ago, you were at that one too. You took photos. So that was a little more formal and it took a lot more work for me to put it together. It was in a beautiful home. It was
an event in itself.
Caroline Nash, and her husband, gave to me, so that the space was free. But then I had to, collect things for fundraisers are very normal in the ballet world. There's usually big galas and all these things that happen. And it's part of the fun of being a ballet dancer. You get to go to these fancy events and wear fancy dresses, and people think you're cool, for a moment in time. So those are all fun things that we always look forward to as dancers. So I was like, well, let's do a little baby version of that. So this was a little more formal. There was an opera singer singing from the balcony. There was musicians, Mackenzie Eddy and her husband played in the downstairs.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. They're pretty great. And then there was a live drawing, figure drawing of some nude ladies on the third floor, I think, or the second floor. And then there was food and wine, and we danced. We performed also little snippets of the show. But that took a lot of work, which I'm cool with a lot of work, but and so then anyways,
without any help, it takes away from the actual
people help me. Again, people have been very generous, but when at the end of the day, I was dancing in that show as well. So it was a whole slew of things. So the next one, the one you're talking about is the one we did at Suzanne Allen's studio, who has been super supportive of me. She's also an artist. I was like, let's just have a party. Let's make it a little more free. And there was structure. I thought the whole thing out because I am a control freak, but I was
an HBIC.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Old bitch organizer, I think is the new title.
OBO.
Yeah. OBO. So, I was just like, let's just have fun. So there was actual drawings on girls and figure drawings and just fun stuff happening. And we danced kind of around the people, and there was a DJ at that one.
You seemed, by the way, at that one, you were way more relaxed. You looked like you were enjoying it.
Probably drinking a little bit.
I wasn't going to say it, but you were enjoying
I
the
danced
evening.
at that one too, though. I don't think I danced at the last one. I danced. People asked me to, which is really flattering. I was like, oh, you want me to dance? Anyway, so we had some classical musicians playing live there. So we danced. I danced with a violinist. I improv'd, and then we did some stuff outside. I don't know. That was a lot of fun. I should do that. I should do that again. That was good. Yeah, maybe I'll do that again when we can do it again.
See, when I hear you talking about all this stuff, I start getting ideas popping in my head. I'm going to talk to this person and this person about doing this thing with you guys, and I'll talk to you later after this. But
yeah, cool. Well, I think the reason I felt like I had to do it this way, because like I said before, people are kind of half interested in local art. I don't know if they don't take it dance. I don't know if they don't take us seriously. I get that a lot. I think that they don't really think that people think I'm a yoga teacher, which is cool. I am a yoga teacher, but I'm a ballet dancer. I've been dancing professionally for 17 years and hasn't always looked the way I want it to look in the past few years because of some struggles with that. But that's my whole life.
Right.
So that's not interesting enough to bring people to come see. And it's not just me. I'm talking about everyone else who's dancing as well. We've committed our whole lives to this art form and went to prestigious schools and danced for other companies. Some of the people I work with are pretty awesome. But people don't really seem to appreciate it as much as I think because they just don't really know. So I'm like, all right, let's team up with some food people and some music people and some artists, other people who think that's cool. And they're like, well, maybe if they find that person or that thing interesting, they might also in turn become interested in what I'm doing. So it's cross marketing on purpose, but not in a way of just to get people to like want to enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense because the way, as I described before, the way I saw your first show, the Lightlines show, if I had not seen that, I'd be one of those people who just don't take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But because I was able to experience it in that setting, in that that performance, in that, you know, it just, I think if people were to see it in that kind of fashion, they'll become fans. Mm-hmm. And you're doing that. You're putting it into places where it might not normally exist. Yeah. By doing it in a brewery, you're going to have people who don't expect to see a ballet performance.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, what am I watching? And
it's kind of pop-up style. So I'm not selling tickets to this because, like I said, we committed to it being a volunteer thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let's just continue with our theme, you know? And, you know, the brewery is like, well, do you want us to close it down for you and like sell tickets, blah, blah, blah. I'm bringing people in. I'm like, well, I think we for sure could sell out 2 shows and like it might be beneficial, but like kind of cool to just let whoever's there see it. And like the people that want, we still have to kind of work out how this is exactly going to happen. But the people that are going to like specifically coming to see the show, I'm going to recommend they come early.
Right.
You know, and make sure you have a seat. Also, I put on the invite to like bring a beach chair because there's space to kind of just, the people who were doing that at the theater show the other night, they were just kind of making their own seating because you do have to be seated.
Yeah.
You know, we're still in, you know, COVID times. So, and we want people to feel comfortable and safe. So anyways, I don't know exactly how we're going to work that out. I have to talk to everybody and make sure we are on the same page, but there's going to be a lot of people there that aren't ready for it. It's like a pop-up.
Yeah. And there's something, for the people who get it, I imagine there will be a handful of people that will be like, oh, why is this happening? And it won't hit them. But then there'll be another handful of people that'll be like I described. They're just going to be like, I had no idea. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And when you combine,
there might be some people who hate it. I mean, like they're just wanting to sit and chill and have a beer, you know, and then all of a sudden we're playing music over our sound, the PA system, and like, here we are.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you could walk around giving $100 bills to people and somebody would be upset by it. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. No matter what you do, there's always a hater or two. Screw those people.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited by the way you've handled all this and the way you do this. And does it come from this desire in you that you just need to create and that you need to communicate that way?
Yeah, for sure. And and I have this, like, it's a funny thing. Like, I didn't really think about this before, but I really have a big draw of bringing people together. I think I want to be around people a lot. And it's just like something I have to accept about myself. I have to work on being alone sometimes. But I love bringing people together in community. And I love the idea of joining in for a reason. So yeah, that's...
Man. So what do you think, like that, do you think the young version of yourself, not quite as young as the setting up stuffed animals as an audience, because I think that version of Crystal would be like, of course Crystal would be doing what she's doing now, but maybe a little bit older, maybe high school Crystal. What kind of person were you in high school? Just let me preface it there. Like, were you still like heavily into the creative stuff, or were you kind of recluse and kind of experimenting with life? What kind of person were you in high school?
Oh. Okay.
You don't have to get
let's do it. I was very serious about dancing. I graduated early from school. I was very serious.
Wow.
Every day of the week except for like one. And then I was a wild child. So I've always kind of been work really hard and then play really hard. And I don't think I'm still like that a little bit. I'm a little tamer maybe, but I I definitely was experimenting with life, is how you put it. That's how we'll keep it. I mean, and I don't think that's uncommon with ballet dancers. There's like two types, I think. It's like, there's like the straight and narrow ones that like eat, sleep. We call them bunheads. Eat, sleep, drink, ballet. You know, like, and if
I just love that there's a name for them.
They almost like are, I mean, it is a thing. Like, it's almost awkward for them to be friends with people outside of the dance community because they like, that's all they do. And I've always kind of, and I have felt that way. And like, sometimes I still feel that way.
Yeah.
Because like those are the only people that can ever have that experience, right? Like, it's like how anybody would feel. But then there's the other ones who like, you know, smoking cigarettes as they come into the studio and, you know, like having one too many beers every night. And, you know, for me, it was like, I was very serious. I think when I was in high school, I was getting up and going to the gym in the morning when I was still going to like regular school, going to school. And then you dance every night until almost 10 o'clock. And then I wake up, hit the repeat button and do it again, you know?
Yeah.
So that was my life. So that's like then it's like when that's not happening one night a week on a Saturday.
Yeah. You're just like, all right, bring it out to all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Give me all the fun stuff.
As much and as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I will do all of it. Thank you.
So that kid, that serious though, like 6 out of the 7 days, like, what was their vision of what you would become?
I thought I was going to be in what we call a mixed repertory ballet company.
Okay.
Like right off the rip. I actually had no intention of even going to college. It was kind of a fluke because my mentor at the time was a man. And turns out men make way more money. Imagine that.
No.
Than women.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah. You're welcome, world. I just educated you on something that's only unique to the ballet world. It's only happening in ballet, right?
Wow.
Right? No? Okay.
Oh.
So anyways, I got some job offers when I was like 17 or 18. And they offered me what he thought was way too little money. Which good for him because like honestly, it taught me to never take shit from people. Like he instilled that in me. I kind of had a boy mentality about it, which I'm happy that I have because I see a lot of females in the ballet world take it on the chin way too much, and they will work. There's a lot of free work that happens where it should not be.
Right. There's free work because you have to, like what you're doing right now.
Yes.
But then there's
that's a
free
choice.
Work where you're being taken advantage of.
Right.
When someone says, oh, we'll pay you in credit. It'll be good exposure. Like, no, my rent doesn't get paid by exposure.
Yeah, they have these apprentice programs in the bigger ballet companies where girls will just kind of sit in this apprentice program and they never really and these are adult females, like young adults, but they aren't getting paid really, and they're like doing just as much, if not more than everyone, usually more than the people that are getting paid. And I never had that experience, thanks to him. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, you know, I had a life-changing experience at 21 that changed my whole career. So what I thought I was going to be doing shifted a little. I still danced in mixed rep companies, you know, for years, and I danced in multiple different companies. I danced in some, you know, a little more like kind of what I'm doing type of adventurous companies too. But I ruptured my Achilles tendon when I was 21. So that
goes back to what I was saying earlier about like the physical aspect of how close you guys are on. That was one of the things I thought, like, what happens when someone tears a ligament in the middle of a performance?
Yeah. What's weird is I had left the ballet company. I danced for a ballet company in Alabama at the time. I think I was 22. I'm sorry. And anyways, I was leaving and starting with a new place, and then that happened. And then anyone who has any knowledge about what that means, I didn't walk for 9 months.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I think that's another reason I'm so thirsty for to continue on. Like, I've had it taken away from me before.
Right.
And I think until you've really had something taken away from you that you really love, sometimes you don't. For me, it made it more heightened, the awareness that I needed it. And especially that young age where I thought I was like on top of the fucking world, you know, like I was like, all right, here's the beginning of my career. Like I'm ready to hustle. Like, let's go. And, you know, I was like balls to the wall, like all the time. And, you know, that's life, man. And so I don't know. I think I thought that I was just going to be a ballet dancer. Like, I just want to be a ballet dancer. That's all I thought. Like, I think I always had it in me to be creative. I used to even, you know, I used to write some. I have like this huge desire to be a costume designer. So I've actually made all the costumes for all the shows. I didn't hand sew. I mean, I hand sewed all of them, anything. Some of them were like bought pieces that I like redesigned, or some very minimal sewing. I don't even own a sewing machine, which I should maybe do.
Well, the where I was going with the question.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. This is exactly all I love to go off on into these things and get into the weeds here. But what I was going to get to is, do you think that teenage version of yourself, if they saw a glimpse of what you are doing now, well, and I'm not talking about like in the middle of a pandemic type of thing. I'm just saying like what you've done in the last few years, your independent spirit, the way you've just you're doing things on your own terms, and you're still working with other professional companies, but you're doing all these other things on your own as well. Do you think that that teenage Crystal would understand how freaking amazing that is? Or would they just be shocked and like, wait, what happened?
Amazing?
What?
I don't know.
I think so.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that I have always felt confident in my ability to make shit happen.
Yeah.
I doubt a lot of things about myself, but that part of me, like, I believe in. So I could see her looking at that and being like, of course you did that, you know? And I mean, I think that she would think that that's possible for me. I've kind of always been the same. It's funny. I don't think I've grown since I was 11 or 12. I've been at literally the same size. And you know, and obviously like I got smarter and wiser and like messed up a lot, and you know,
which in turn, if you survive those things, makes you smarter and wiser.
But I'm still messing up a lot, and like those things are still happening. So like I don't know. It's just I've kind of just been comfortable with myself.
Well, I'm hoping that you're going to start embracing your punk rock nature now that I've given it a name that you're laughing at.
Well, I mean,
but
I never really thought of it.
I say it as a major term of endearment from my perspective. I'm so excited that you are doing this, and the reasons why you're doing it are like so just true to the heart of why any creative person gets into their thing. That doesn't mean that she shouldn't get paid. So yeah, bring some money. You know, tip your bartender, but tip the dancers.
Yeah,
tip the crew. I'm so excited that you're doing this. What does the path look like on the professional side moving forward? Have they started to like figure out what it might look like going into next season? We are
supposedly performing in December, supposedly
like a Nutcracker type of thing.
We do the Snow Queen.
Yes, I did see that too.
Mm-hmm. So
I have seen that.
Yeah, so we're doing that at the Satilli. Fingers crossed, you know, that happens and everyone's in the right place in the world and those things go on. But I guess we've all learned to not take anything for granted.
Right.
But apparently that's happening. So I will be dancing in that. And then we have 3 other shows planned for the season with Palmetto City. So, and then I'm going to try to plan something for... I want to keep doing the show. I hope it works out.
Yeah.
Hope people think it's cool. I think that the girls like did a really awesome job. Like I'm so proud of what they're doing and how we came together. So I hope that we get to do it and do it again. A lot of times dance shows and like this like my level of dancing, like kind of this grassroots type of thing. Like you'll work really hard on something and then you kind of just do it once and twice, maybe 3 times, and then it's kind of gone. It's sad. I mean, you can revisit it or bring it back, but I don't love that. I don't love that. I don't love that. So like, I hope that we get to do it again.
Well, this performance seems like, instead of being designed for a specific space, like you can move this anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it seems like you're designing it so that it can be a pop-up situation. So I picture you going to like the middle of the outlets during the middle of Christmas shopping season and just boom.
Oh, wow.
Dropping a boom box and making it happen.
Oh, wow.
And keeping it as you know.
The outlets.
I'm joking. I know it's very...
Yeah.
I didn't mean to bring you down to Tiffany where you're doing a mall tour. But you're probably too young to know who Tiffany or Debbie Gibson are.
I think I don't. I have an idea who Debbie Gibson is. Tiffany, the singer.
Yes.
Yeah. What does she sing?
I think we're alone now.
I think we're alone now.
The video for that is in a mall. Oh. It's her performing in a mall. So
okay.
Anyway, but that was like
that used to be a thing back in the 80s, and right? Like,
yeah, pop singers would go on mall tours.
Yes,
they would just show up at a mall, and all of a sudden there's a pop singer.
Man, malls are dead.
Yeah,
malls are dead.
But that could be a cool venue.
Maybe outlet pop-ups aren't dead.
Yeah, well, it's outdoors.
Yeah,
that's why I said like, you can just show up at the outlets and just go in the middle of like one of the squares
in
there
front of Nike.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Hey, not all my ideas are going to be home runs.
All right. Hey, we're going to put on some fucking Christmas decor and leave a tip jar out at this point. Like, whatever.
Yeah. All right. So tell me we know how to get you on your website. What's your Instagram?
I don't know. Crystal Wellman. I'm bad at this. I'm not a self-promoter. Crystal Wellman, something, or there may be. Let's look.
I'm going to put all of this stuff in the show notes so people can find. I'll put links in the show. Yeah.
It's Crystal. Unbound Ballet. Go to Unbound Ballet. Forget me. Go to Unbound Ballet Project.
Don't ever forget about
Crystal Unbound Ballet Project is our, Unbound Ballet Project is Instagram handle for the company.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. And basically, it's punk rock, or pick your own like flavor of art. It's street art. There you go. It's DIY dance, and when I say DIY, like she's really doing it all herself with the help of other people volunteering. I get all that, but you're organizing it. That's the thing. You're pulling all these people together.
Yeah.
Because you're the OBO?
OBO.
There you go. I've got a new term.
Yeah.
The OBO.
Yeah.
That you can't really say to anyone else.
Yeah. Just me.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Before you get going, I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share the show with your friends. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram at Joe Latex. That's at JOEL8X. And you can also connect with me on my show's website. It's jwnpod.com. Hope you're all doing well and have a great day. Peace.